Hi everyone, I'm with the wonderful Balazs.
How's it going?
He is, I don't even know how to explain him. He is a pillar of our community. He's one of the founders. He is a leading man, somebody that I really admire. Even my husband, we look up to you. Just your whole mindset and your whole persona. You're like, we want to be like that guy.
Thanks.
So it has been, I think you've been in the business for 10 years?
I've been a part of the company for 10 years,
Right.
and I've been building it for almost 6 years, the
Right.
business side of things.
The business side of things. What was a major hurdle for you when you stepped into this side of things that you really had to overcome?
Yeah, it's a great question. Initially, there's a big difference between sales
Right.
and then also building a team, right? There's a big separation. So a lot of people, they treat an opportunity like this more as a sales job, as opposed to building and cultivating leaders and finding the right team members. So for me, it was a bit of an adjustment because I did come from a sales background in door-to-door right before. So I had to take some of the transferable skills, but then also relearn some things to do them better in this world, which is a different world.
Yes.
And often we get caught up in learning something one way and then thinking that's the best way or the only way in the future, when actually you need to adjust and change some things.
Yeah.
So that was big for me, and I went from trying to sell to instead trying to lead and actually help somebody become successful and independent without me. And that's what ultimately led to this compound effect of duplication and building a large organization over the years.
That's great, because that's something that just stood out, is like growing a team of members who can do it without you.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
what you want. You want
that's
people
right.
who can duplicate your success.
Right.
And that is something that I'm struggling with currently in my business. I feel like I have to monitor their every move. They have the potential, but I don't want to baby them. Like, I'm a hustler, and this is something I've grown very passionate about. And so I love that you said that. So take note.
Well, there's one point just real quick that you mentioned that I picked up on, is your team is a reflection of you.
Yes.
So that's really an eye-opener, because when I was in the earlier days, I was also frustrated like yourself, saying like, why isn't anybody doing anything, blah, 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 blah. But what was really showing up for me was that I became a manager. I fell into a management trap.
Yeah.
But this isn't that type of structure. So the best thing that you could do is lead by example.
Yeah.
So what happens is, let's say you built a team of, like, we can use sports as an analogy. So on basketball, there's 5 players on the court at a time, and then there's some people on the bench, you know, usually maybe 5 more or something that they rotate. What a lot of people will do is they'll build their first team of 10 and then stop and be like, you guys got to take me to win the championship, right? But the reality is that there's tryouts and there's cuts, and you're actually always rotating the starting lineup, but you have to continue doing that. So how you motivate your old team is by actually bringing on new people. That's the best way to do it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, so you're kind of forgetting about me. I got to get my ass moving in gear. And then the thing that really was a big change for me was that I was always trying to help the people struggling the most in the early days. But the reality is that as leaders, we need to give our attention to the people who've earned it, not the people who need it. And that's hard to do.
That is hard, but that's great advice.
But that's the best thing to do. So instead of ignoring the people who've earned it because you're like, oh, they're good, they're doing well, and focusing on everybody who's struggling, you do the opposite. You actually double down on the people doing the work and putting in the time, and you help them accelerate even more.
Exactly, and they're just going to compound. Great advice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You have a really good social media presence on Instagram and Facebook. What was a tactic that you used to grow that presence on Instagram? I find Instagram one of the hardest. And like watching Jason Stone talk yesterday, it was amazing, but it just like hit me home. I'm like, oh my god, I got to do this and this and that. But that's a fear of mine. What did you do to grow to 100,000 followers?
Well, over the years, one of the things is you have to really pick what your content is about and then remain consistent with that. So sometimes people pick a subject or a type of content that they want to put out or be known as, but they don't have any supporting evidence of results in that space. So it's unnecessary. So I would just say, like, for me, it was always about lifestyle, freedom, luxury, the habitable, diamond life is my brand. So I had the content to support that, and then I just got really, really consistent. So if you can just be consistent on a platform and do something like once a day in the beginning, you're going to get much further than the people that only do it a little bit. So that's the first thing I can say, is just being consistent. and then over time the algorithms go in your favor because your audience expects something from you daily. And then how you can achieve that is by crunching down time. I like to call it collapsing time, by filming a lot of content in one shot instead of daily. So like, for example, if you're inspired on a certain day of the week, like maybe Sunday as an example, or Saturday or Friday, film all your content or edit all your photos or do what you need to do for your post that day, back to back to back, but then schedule it and release it daily. Because what I found is like, I couldn't force content. So if I was like, I have to post today, and I'm like looking at my phone and I'm like, I can't think of anything, and then you don't want to force it, so you just don't post. But if you can plan it in advance, then even if you're not in the mood, you still got something as a backup, and that makes a huge difference over time.
Yeah, that's great advice, because as Jason's talking, I'm like looking at all the things I got to do to grow it, because that's a platform I want to touch. So
you don't have to do all of them either. That's another thing. It's overwhelming. No, not platform-wise. I mean strategy and tactic-wise. You don't have to do them all. So even if you just pick one that you're like, I really like this idea, you did that for 90 days consistently every day, you're going to get better results than like dabbling in a lot of them kind of half-assedly over the same 90 days. Right.
That's actually really good, because I was looking at them and overwhelmed, but yet incorporating only one and then doing the 90 days, because you make improvements in those 90 days.
And think about it like this: when you go to a restaurant and there's a menu for food, do you order everything on the menu for dinner?
If I could, I would.
Exactly, me too. But you only pick the thing that you're in the mood for that meal. And that's the same thing with content or a book or an event or a course. There's going to be a menu of options, a menu of choices, menu of things you could order or you could implement. But if you just have one meal and one implementation, you're getting further and not starving in your business, right?
Perfect. Awesome. So, what is your biggest goal in the next 5 years? Like, what do you want to accomplish that's like number one?
There's two major goals. Well, there's kind of three. There's a personal goal for me, which is number one, which is having a family with my wife and being fully present as full-time parents. That has always been my driving force since the first day I started my business, was to be financially and with our time fully free to have options to do whatever we wanted to do. So that's the first thing. The second thing is how many people I can help set free. So I want to be an inspiring example of what's possible, because so many people think that they can only have some things. Like, for example, you'll see on social media all the time people saying, don't buy things, have experiences. And this is one of the biggest things that I disagree with, that I see all the time, because you can actually have both. There's no reason to have one or the other. But before you can have either, you actually have to invest everything into yourself. So people try to save money and do all this stuff early, when all that extra money that you have should be getting poured into you, because you're the greatest investment. So that's the first thing. So I want to set people free by living an authentically truthful, real, free life, and being like, I've done it, you can do it. Right now, we've helped over 1,000 people actually quit their jobs in less than 6 years. And 150 of them are making over 6 figures a year, which is just amazing. And then the last thing is, I want to become somebody who takes my wealth from this opportunity of this business and then fully reinvests it into other asset classes, creates generational wealth, and then takes a percentage of the dividends of those investments and gives back. So that's really my 5-year plan, is to be able to live off of 1% of my earned income through investments, and then start donating and giving back in a big way.
Wow, that's beautiful, and you're going to receive tenfold by doing that. And one thing you just said was, take that money, stop saving and feeling like that's the thing. My husband and I are actually, we had an open house today, so we're selling a house. We're taking our family on the road. We're going to go to a travel trailer. Kind of like a Rob Thomas story. And I was talking to Caleb yesterday, and I was like, he's like, well, what are you going to do with the equity? What are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to pay off this debt, this debt, this debt. And he's like, well, what are those debts? And I said, my car is one of them. He said, why are you going to pay off your car at such a low rate? Take that money, that $26,000 that you're going to pay off your car, reinvest it into you and your business. Because you put in $1, you're going to make 2 or more.
That's right.
So that's
there's a time and place, because often what happens is we grow up in a certain circumstance. Like, for example, the masses, majority of people grow up in a 9-to-5 trading time for money. So that demographic of people gets taught certain things, such as debt is bad and pay it off and all this. So then you're actually making a change out of that demographic into a different demographic, but you're holding on to these old beliefs, right? So you actually have to understand that a certain way of life, a certain type of career, a certain type of income has a different set of rules. And when you make the switch, don't forget to change the rest.
Right.
You change all of it. You don't just change part of it. And this is a common problem for a lot of people. Is they think all debt is bad. When in fact that's not true. Debt is one of the most powerful things you can leverage to earn money, because if your interest you pay on debt is low and you can invest it for a higher return, you're coming out ahead. And you're using other people's money, which is one of the strategies of the wealthy, because you didn't even need the money in the first place, right? And that goes against the belief that 9-to-5 people have, where it's like it takes money to make money, which is true, but it doesn't have to be your own money.
Exactly. That's great advice.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
sitting down with me.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see your growth, and I can't wait to follow in your footsteps. Hey. So have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Thanks. And if you guys have an opportunity to work with Jody, she's just kicking butt. Absolutely one of our rising stars in the community. So if you have a chance to ever partner with her or work with her, take that chance. It's going to be one of the best decisions you've ever made.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That was good.
That was fun.